place that is for Jan Ullrich as we head now back into Spain onto the east coast. And Jan Ullrich reading González Galdeano by 36 seconds. Pavel Tonkov is third at 48. Heras is fourth at 2:35. The gaps have closed now. Olano has plunged back to ninth overall at 5 minutes 43 seconds. And again today we have the third consecutive hilltop finish in what is proving to be a very up and down tour for an awful lot of riders. This will be a tough day, but at least the weather is okay as we head towards the Rasos de Peguera. Beautiful scenery with Andorra at their backs as they race across the far northeastern corner of Spain today. And Jan Ullrich chatting with his friends and his teammates here. They've only lost one rider of the team so far, Guerini. He packed a couple of days ago. The notable non-starter this morning is Laurent Jalabert, complaining of health problems. He's gone, and that can only weaken the cause now of Olano. And this looks like Fabian Jecker. And he's had, I think, a tumble, but either way, it doesn't look too good, does he? And he's in all sorts of pain there, and we're leaving him on the roadside as well, because there's a little breakaway being forced here by Alex Zuller as he comes up on the outside. No reaction. Can you imagine that a couple of years ago when Zuller was winning the Tour of Spain? They would never have allowed him to fly off the front like that. But this year, he's not riding as well as one might expect, and neither is Benesto team at the moment. This has become, again, as one expects, an infight amongst the Spanish teams who all want to grab the limelight. It looks as though Zuller's got himself a nice little escape at the moment, though. Being joined by Peña. Peña's been in the fray in this last couple of days. He's still a lot of work to make to get time back on the general classification. And he's gone anyway now because this is Odriozola and Micheli from the Liquigas cover. So two Benesto riders. And there is the odd man out. Number 96, Micheli from the Liquigas team. And the Italian versus the Swiss and the Spaniard. And coming up like an express train is Jose Jimenez. And that should keep things under control as they try now to control the front. The Telecom boys doing what they have to do here. And I must say the US Postal Service, we haven't seen hardly anything of them in this race at all. They've only got, in fact, 4 riders left in the Tour now. 3 of them went out on the 12th stage, which was the stage yesterday up to the top of the Arcalise. So they're only left with Frankie Andreu, Julian Dean, Frankie Hoy and Glenn Magnusson, their Swedish sprinter. Mainfield keeping a fast tempo, but still away from the field is Alex Zuller. Won't create a huge reaction, I don't think, from Ullrich and the boys just yet. A lot of time can be made up on the finishing climb as they go up towards the finish. Here is Nicola Micheli in the Benesto sandwich. And I'm not too sure what that clock means at the bottom. It's certainly not the number of hours they've been racing, nor is it a time check, so we'll just have to ignore it. As Alex Zuller clearly does, and just gets on with a nice bit of freewheeling down the mountain here. How he slipped, especially after his ride up to Arcalise, over an hour down now. Hence the reason why nobody is bothered when he made that sprint off the front of the peloton, and Micheli even better than Alex Zuller right now. Odriozola 45th, so they're all higher placed than Alex overall, but he might do something about the day if he can. 2-1, very good odds. Back to the bunch, and the workers for the Telecom team keeping the tempo high, knowing that everybody they fear most is all riding behind them. Well, after yesterday's win, Jan Ullrich seems to have relocated his target now, and he is thinking of trying to win this race. He certainly didn't come to it trying to win it. He missed the Tour de France because of that bad crash he had in the Tour of Germany. It's ruined the hopes of so many people this year, including that of Michele Bartoli. It was won in the end by Jens Heppner. But that race, with its bad weather, destroyed the hopes of many for the rest of the season. And now I wonder if Jan Ullrich is in a position to establish himself as another victor of this race. Only 2 Germans, by the way, have ever won the Tour of Spain. 2 great riders in Rudi Altig and Rolf Wulschel. Rolf Wulschel, better known perhaps for his performances in cyclocross, but he was also an extremely good roadman, and he won this Tour in the 60s. Looking down on the field, which is still more or less together, apart from this opportunist escape of the men lower down the overall. Oh my goodness me, there's been a huge tumble down there. It so often happens when the pace and people are relaxed that little bit, a touch of wheels and down they go. I've no idea who the fallers are from this height, but it looked to me as though they might have all got themselves back into shipshape. Well, it makes you wonder what would happen if they had a crack in that lot. Looking back then at the golden jersey of Ullrich, and it looks as though he's moved to the front here and he's now beginning to apply the pressure, because with him there is Beltran. Jan just keeping a nice steady tempo, looking to see what damage. This man is a remarkable bike rider. When he has the form, he has to be the finest cyclist on the circuit. 2 kilometres to go now on this final climb to the finish, and they've got rid of Odriozola. He's gone from that group, so it's Micheli versus Zuller, as now the boys from Kelme have split the field here, and again no sign of Abraham Olano. Jimenez, as leader of the King of the Mountains, is here. Ullrich on the left, obviously here, and it looks as though obviously gone is Micheli, because that is Alex Zuller, who has accelerated away from the front, and with 300 metres to go, this man is going to redeem himself in the Vuelta. He's going to take a stage win and put Benesto onto the map. They're desperate for a result, and I don't think Nicola Micheli is going to come back up. That was a real effort by Alex Zuller though, and he's just about hanging on to it here. He's not thinking of overall, he's thinking of establishing a little bit of pride, I think, as Alex makes his way up to the line. Lucky 13 for him. Another rider I didn't spot in that group, we've just seen with Ullrich, was Pavel Tonkov either, and I wonder where he is. This might be a good day for Ullrich in retrospect. We'll find out soon as Alex comes over the line to get his stage victory for Benesto. Look at the gap he put into Micheli. Micheli obviously knew that when that attack came he had no more legs left, but at least he's hung on to take second place, 14 seconds behind. Now, what's happening with that battle behind? Jimenez, the King of the Mountains, still riding a superb Vuelta, sprinting clear of the group behind. He will finish in 3rd place. So 1st and 3rd for Benesto today. And that looks like people making it 1st, 3rd and 4th. So they've got the team and are building up a nice position there, as in comes Jan Ullrich in the gold jersey, followed by Heras. 40 seconds plus gone by. Still no sign of Tonkov as 2 Kelme riders come in. That's Para, I think it was, from Vitalicio. A little bit of an interview and a word on tape from Alex Zuller, the Swiss rider. But Tonkov, I think, is the rider who is losing time. Here's how Alex did it. Or had already done it by this point. Zipping up his racing jersey, ready for the 2-arm salute. Little check over his shoulder. No sign of the Italian. All is well. So Alex Zuller now feels a bit happier. Here is Abraham Olano. This has been a dastardly day for him as well. He is way, way down. Tonkov, in fact, has come in ahead of this group, but he's also lost time. Well, this does not all well for Abraham Olano, does it? There's the clock. I was about to say, where is the clock? And it's over 7 minutes now. So Olano, who showed such great resistance in the early mountains, appears now to have cracked. And the man who's made him suffer most today, Alex Zuller, a double winner of this race in the recent past, and not a challenger this year. And the yellow jersey for Jan Ullrich, who now leads Gonzalez Galdeano by 49 seconds. Heraz is up to third. Jimenez is fourth. Tonkov goes down to fifth at 3 minutes 45. And Olano is only 12th. 12 minutes plus back. And the day has dawned very wet indeed in Barcelona for what should have been an extremely good circuit race here. But the news is, at the start line, no Abraham Olano. He has withdrawn again because of health problems and has gone for a checkup to hospital with stomach pains and blaming it on the fall well over a week ago in the first mountains. Well, that really is very sad, but he put up a tremendous resistance, one has to say, but he's gone now. And we look at the tremendous conditions here now, and the riders themselves are still making up their minds whether to race or not, because they wanted this stage to be annulled today. Conditions are so dangerous. It's an urban circuit within this wonderful city of Barcelona, and because of the traffic, buses, etc., the surface is slippery. They say the race should not be held. The organisers already have taken out of the circuit the 8 intended climbs of Montjuic, which is an awful shame because that would have been a spectacle in itself. That's where they have that wonderful two-stage hill climb at the end of the season, and where we've had the World Championships in the past and indeed an Olympic road race. But that's all gone. And riders, this is Roberto Heras here trying to talk to Alvaro Pino, I think it is, about whether or not we should continue or not. They are very unhappy indeed. And so far there hasn't been a wheel turned in anger. They want the stage completely nullified, or the times not to count for the day's racing. It's called wheel power, I think, and I don't think that when the whole field sticks together like this, there is really very much the race organisation can do. The tragedy is the massive organisation to close down the centre of a big city, and then the weather, which is seriously bad, has caused this sort of a problem. Look, they've raced, well, they've ridden just through the start-finishing line there, all looking really miserable. Frankie Andreu in the centre of our picture, one of the survivors of US Postal after their wonderful Tour de France, of course, let's not forget. Oscar Camazin, the world champion, sitting at the back. Meanwhile, further chats up here at the front. Marcel Wust himself, 4 stage wins so far, and looking forward to possibly a shot at the last one in Madrid. He's been back as spokesman, I think, to the race organisation to see what can be arranged. That's Pino. He's also having a chat with the fellow directors, saying, what are we going to do? And now the race will shortly be back round at the finishing line again. And the answer is, we're doing nothing right now. There is no racing. They've lost the former yellow jersey, Olano, and here we come up to the start-finish line again. Crowd are not happy. I don't blame them. They're getting wet as well. And they're trying to now reach a decision. The climbs we know are out. The organisers are refusing for times to be cancelled, so times will stand. That's if they start again, of course. They have threatened to strike all morning, quite honestly. There's Heras riding through the picture. Well, without somebody like Bernard Hinault, they haven't got a spokesman, have they? Hinault would have been there now telling the organisation exactly what he thought of them, and there would have been a decision in 5 minutes. Otherwise, Hinault would have had all the boys back in the bar. But we're off, I think. And we're going to have an urban circuit race. Eventually we'll eke out around about 130 kilometres. Let's join the action now, because this is Lelli on the attack with Roscioli. Well, you can always rely on Roscioli to get on with the job in hand. Last time he was in a two-man breakaway in this race, he was with Sergei Uchikov. Now we've got Lelli, the Italian, for Cofidis. But it really is quite ridiculous because these boys are having a job going round that corner. So you can appreciate the problems on both sides, I think. Just look at these conditions now. The rain hasn't got better. In fact, it's got worse. And you can hear the crowd just whistling them around the course. But I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other in this case today. But it is such a shame it all happened in Barcelona, this magnificent city, host of the 1992 Olympic Games, which were great games. Particularly for Great Britain, of course, and for British cycling because of Chris Boardman's gold medal on the track. 1 kilometre to go. Nobody's bothered to chase these two down. Now, Paolo Roscioli is on the back wheel of another man who's not well known for his sprint this time, like Uchikov. I wonder. And Roscioli's playing the same tactic. He's put the other man in front and he's going to sit there and take him to the line and just see if he can match him better than last time out. So he's on the shoulder of Lelli. Lelli leaving it as late as he possibly can here. The Italian on the French Cofidis team, Massimiliano. Well, Roscioli's had at least one dress rehearsal for this, and he's not going to play it any other way than he did last time. He's going to wait for the man on the front to lead. And no, now he kicks. Now he gives it again, almost a photocopy of the last time. But this time, Lelli's gone to the other side of the road, and he's got nothing like the response that Uchikov have. And now it looks as though Roscioli, he's gone before the corner and risked everything over that level crossing there, zebra crossing. Could have been dicey, but he's taken the risk and it's paid off. And he's coming clear of the field now because Lelli should have got closer on that bend. And that's the victory he wanted. He's won a stage of the Tour de France. Now he's got a stage of the Vuelta. Lelli was closing in on the line. A big cheer at last from the rain-sodden crowd. And look at that for happiness for you. At the end of a really rough day for all concerned. There'll be no change overall. Roscioli getting the victory ahead of Lelli. A win for Roscioli's little team. And here comes the peloton flat out, border to border. Nobody interested in the third place bonus, it seems. And I think if any one of these takes up the sprint now, the other riders are going to bang him on the head, because they've obviously got a pact going here that they are not going to sprint for the prizes. The crowd are watching this almost in total silence. It's one of those days that the organisers of big events hopes never happens to them. But it has today. Well, what will happen when they see the banner is somebody will get twitchy. You can see now by the riders moving up on the right just under the tree there. And now a little bit of movement on the left as well. Slowly but surely there is speed picking up as the sprinters can scent the banner. And we've got Glenn Magnussen right on the front. There's Marcel Wust, who's the top points rider in the race, not surprisingly. Another US rider goes round on the right of the road, and I think that's Frank Hoy. It might be Magnussen, actually. No, that's Magnussen up on the right there. So they started the sprint now. Wust is not taking a great deal of interest, although he's throwing away a few valuable points here for his leader's jersey. As they come clear, Magnussen gets it from Hoy, and Wust was in there somewhere. And a nice round of whistles greeting the riders over the line. And no change, of course, overall, as Ulrich will keep his 49 seconds intact over Galdiano, 2:35 over Heras, 3:35 over Jose Maria Jimenez. Tonkov is fifth at 3:45, Rubira sixth at 4:23, and Manuel Beltran is seventh at 5:05. And Roscioli, it's a shame they're all booing him, because he's such a colourful bike rider and he's always happy when he wins, and good for him. The yellow jersey for Jan Ullrich. He found the day in the end rather an easy one, and he gets a nice round of applause because he's a pretty popular guy, Jan Ullrich. I don't know what he's going to do with all these little, whatever they are, dogs or cats. Learning to fly. On to Valencia. That's our next point of call in the Vuelta de España. And this, a stage of 193 kilometres from La Senya to Valencia. We're now entering the final week of the Tour of Spain. And gone are some of the men who made the news in the opening days. And now gone too is this breakaway group And these are perfect conditions and an extremely good stage for a long breakaway. And the riders on the attack aren't going to affect the destiny of the yellow jersey, at the moment at least. There's Vyacheslav Yekimov, who's rumoured to be on his way back to the US Postal Team, and there, just in case, could be next year's teammate for him. Frankie Andreou has made the split today. Number 166 is Eddie Mazzolini from the Seiko team. And passing through here, the guard for Kelme, really, and that is Tony Torla of Spain. Big in-battle going on here amongst the three Spanish teams for the final honours in the team race. As we look there at Mariano Piccoli, because Benesto, Vitalicio and Kelme are only spread by about 1 3/4 minutes between the three teams in the team event. So there's that little infight going, and no doubt there'll be a reaction. And I'm quite sure that Ulrich and his telecom squad are aware of the infighting that goes on in Spanish cycling. And instead of concentrating their effort on beating him, and there he is, they tend to race against one another, and a clever team can make that pay off. And Ulrich's team is a clever one. This little breakaway today, I think, is in with a chance of staying away right through to the finish. Oh, and there's been a nasty flick there and a crash, and that looks like Mikkeli has gone down, is it? He hit the road with quite a bang. It looked like his own mistake. But if it was, then he's behind the field. Or the break, rather, right now. And there is the faller. And having his car, I think it's the faller anyway. And he's gone back with the team car as the race continues here. Back in the sunshine at last. Oops, and no, wow. Now that is Mikkeli, so the other one was his teammate. And he's not too happy about his bike either. So we've actually had two riders in the Leaky Gas team fall. That might have been a little presentation for the small crowd watching, I think. And this has gone well into the distance now, and nobody going to alter the overall classification in the breakaway. Mazzolini is here, Paolo Bettini, Pascal Hervé, Christian Morini, and this is Koen Beekman of Lotto. And he's had a bit of a tumble, but he looks as though he's getting ready to move off again. The Lotto team somewhat devastated, I must confess, because there's only Chris Piers, Kurt van der Wouw, Paul van Hift and Koen Beekman left in from their squad. As these riders are out to decide the day by quite a margin. It's a question of which one can pull the best ploy. They are still many, many minutes ahead of the main pack of riders, so the adventurers are having their day today, and none more so than Igor Flores here of the Euskaltel team. The Spanish rider has taken his chance, and there's a little hesitation in the pack possibly. As they go off to the right, he is giving it just about 110% here now as the Kelme rider tries to pull him back, and I think that is Antonio Torla. But he wants a little bit of help, and this might help Flores, because Flores is staying clear. But now the reaction comes. That looks like Vyacheslav Yekimov, who's launched a very strong attack for the line. Frankie Andreou trying to get onto the wheel of Eki. But Flores might just hold out here. There is still a fair distance to go to the line, 120, 130 metres. And I think the legs have gone of Flores, and Ekimov has come over the top. This is going to be a good result for Ekimov, and Andreou, a good result for him as well. He gets second on the line. I think little Paolo Bettini was third, and the red jersey of Mazzolini from Seiko in fourth place. That's how it looked as they came over the line. Well, Frankie should be pretty happy with that. And this is not quite the typical dash of Ekimov. He usually goes about a kilometre out, but he did it well leading from the front at the end of a long breakaway. And he gets the victory there for his Amica Chips team, the team he says to be leaving at the end of the season and possibly destined to go back to US Postal. But he's on the winner's podium today, and he'll be delighted with that victory for sure. A nice smile from him. Here comes the main field. You can see 12 minutes has now passed by as they liven themselves up just a bit for the sprint. And Van Bont is the bald-headed man from TVM Farm Frites. And at Camesso trying to get through on the inside, but I think it was the Once rider, Perdiguero, who got across the line there ahead of Camesso and Van Bont. No change at all in the overall situation. Ulrich still on top. Jimenez keeps the mountain prize, Hunter keeps the hotspot sprints, Vust keeps the points competition, and Kelme are just ahead by 22 seconds in the team race. And so from the eastern town of Valencia, it's northwest now to Teruel, and it's 200 kilometres as the riders continue towards the last few days of this Tour of Spain. And it looks as though the early breakaway might well have decided this race, because a big group of riders has got clear of the field and gained many minutes. And again, it's gone the favour of the riders from Telecom, who seem to be content to sit back and allow the breakaway to go. There they are. A massive group. One interesting name in this group is Frank Vandenbroucke. We haven't seen too much of him, who continues to train for the upcoming World Championship. People are talking about him as a likely World Champion by the end of this year. There's Jan Ulrich carrying that yellow jersey. How he matures when he becomes a race leader. He's just such an excellent bike rider to control the pack. Yellow means danger in Spain, all over Europe really, as the riders are warned of an obstruction in the road. The pace itself, not a terribly quick one, at round about 38 kilometres an hour today, some 24 miles an hour. Odriozola and Vandenbroucke, though, have now got clear of that breakaway. Now this is a two-pronged situation here, especially for Banesto, because they are in a position with two riders in this breakaway to maybe get a winning lead in the team race, which has been so closely fought throughout the Tour. Jon Odriozola going back here to the remnants of that breakaway. I'm sorry about the pictures giving us a little bit of a problem just now. And then the Euskadel team here back in the main field, they're heading it up. So Telecom have switched off now. They're just watching the movements of the Spanish, again enjoying their infighting. This race now coursing its way inland. Some undulations today, but nothing to talk about. There's the gap now. These two have got 3:30 ahead of the group they've left, and 9:14 still on the main peloton containing Ulrich. Now, is Frank Vandenbroucke going to continue his progress towards the World Championships here with a good result today? He's played his cards well, because Banesto are racing for the team lead, although I would think Odriozola would prefer a stage win. Vandenbroucke, winner this year of Liège-Bastogne-Liège, had a wonderful early part of the year. He was second in the Tour of Flanders, 7th in Paris-Roubaix, and also the winner of Het Volk, the opening Belgian classic of the year. Then he had a down patch, and now he's back. And he is just allowing the Spanish rider to fry there and waiting to pounce. This has got to be a formality for Vandenbroucke now. Look at the face of Jon Odriozola after 5 hours plus in the saddle today. 200 kilometres in 5 hours. It's a tremendous performance. Vandenbroucke is showing no signs of panic, and why should he? Because the gap's 3 or 4 minutes to the next man, and now he just takes his turn at 200 metres with all the confidence in the world. The man from Cofidis, with his blonde hair sprayed up for the occasion, makes mincemeat of Jon Odriozola, has won the sprint at 100 metres to go and takes the line. So he can now boast as being a winner of a stage of the Tour of Spain as well. Odriozola comes in a few seconds back. Nothing much he could do about that, I don't think, as 4 minutes has now ticked by to the arrival of the rest of the group here. And shooting off to the right, an attack by Kelme. That'll be Cabello, and he's a very good finisher. Won a stage of the Tour de France in Great Britain back in '94, and so good I don't think they're going to get up to him here. There's Francisco Cabello. Now, can anything be done by the riders behind? I wonder. I don't think so, because Zinchenko who had such a great tour previously, grits his teeth. But Cabello is playing with Zinchenko. Kamazin comes off to the far right. He might have got fourth there, but unlikely, as Cabello wins that sprint from Zinchenko. So the winner's prize to, I think he's happy, Frank Vandenbroucke, standing up there on the podium. Yes. And there's a long time gone by now, over 12 minutes back to the field here, as Lamprey starts to dice at the front. And also getting in on the act again is Glenn Magnussen, at last showing us what a good sprinter he can be on his day. He's been a stage winner on 3 occasions in the Giro d'Italia. He takes that out, but that's only, I think, for 11th or 12th position. And the yellow jersey, no change at all in the top 8 or 9 riders. They're still the same, with Ulrich on top by that 49 seconds from Gonzalez Galdiano. And the ride even further now, as the rides have gone by bus just down the road to Broncalis for a 225-kilometre ride on this 17th stage, taking them now to Guadalajara. The weather in central Spain, much more settled now than out on the coastal fringes. And Jan Ullrich, knowing there's only a couple of days of serious climbing left for him to defend that title, which he's taken now in Andorra, and hopes to hang on to the end in Madrid. But this is a long day, and long days are always nervous ones. As the field continues to be reduced, Guadalajara now welcoming the strong men of the Tour of Spain, who have survived some atrocious weather conditions and some atrocious climbs as well. And once more, a breakaway has got clear, and it's not going to affect the overall leaderboard at all, providing they don't slip too far ahead. You can see the top 6 names there are from Spain, and 4 Italians, and an Hernandez, another Spanish rider, in this little group as well. Well, as we look at the group here, news reaching us, in fact, that Angel Casera, the champion of Spain, has called it a day and abandoned. And surprisingly, Marcel Wust has also given up as leader of this race on points too. He's getting tired by the day, and that is very unnecessary. Waving at the camera and looking the other way. Now, that's happened, as we've seen in the Tour de France, and it seems to be the in thing right now. And these riders have a right to feel a little bit aggrieved there. Ralf Grabsch was the rider who went down with a bang. And that young lady should feel suitably embarrassed by what she just did. Well, I'm pretty sure the breakaway will allow them back together there after that incident, as we now move on up the road here. And it looks like we've got a breakaway by leaky gas. I must say, I don't recognise the rider here as he races away on his own, but he's having a go for it. And the main field are going to have a job to catch him. In fact, this is Christian Marini of Italy, second-year pro, and he's never won a bike race as far as I know since he turned pro. And I think he might well have got this one right, because as he comes up, he checks over his shoulder. And leaky gas, by the way, have never won a stage in the Tour of Spain before either. But this might be a nice little escape that's going to work and give him a little fairy tale to tell his grandchildren later in life. As he looks over his shoulder now, he stays clear of the field. They are racing for second place behind, that's for sure. As the Kelme rider dances around, that'll be taller. Benesto, by the way, yesterday put a 10-minute buffer in the lead after that breakaway in the team race, so they're looking good for that. As Antonio Tola being challenged here by Garcia Acosta, and it looks like he may have got second, but there's no doubt about the winner. He's riding to victory here, Christian Marini. He won't believe this. This is going to be a superb result for him and his team. I think the Italians next door are scratching their head here as to ask who he is. It's his first victory, and you've got to start somewhere, and he gets a wonderful win. Garcia Acosta is fuming because he's got second, and Michael Zarabitia is over there in third place, and I think it was Mariano Piccoli of Lamprey getting the fourth. few seconds blanketing the breakaway, but we're going to have to sit down and wait for the arrival of the main field, because last heard they were about 15 minutes back. That's Inigo Sharrow again missing out and trailing in at the back of a breakaway in 9th place. But there's the first view. You'll never seen that before. A win from Christian Mareni, and he gets the award today in Guadalajara. And he'll be absolutely over the moon tonight. Champagne will flow, I'm sure. Well, it's 60 minutes and counting since, and now the arrival here. And again, Magnusson is showing he's finding his sprinting legs. He's being challenged here, but not by too much, I don't think. It's Robert Hunter who gets over the top of Glenn Magnusson on the line, and Marcus Zuberg third in the bunch gallop. But gone from that sprint, Marcel Vos today, another big name out of this year's Vuelta Espana. This big name is getting even bigger though, as he continues to lead with no change again in the overall classification. So Ulrich can tick off another day when he goes to bed tonight. And so the race continues now. The mountains of western Spain are back with us as the race reaches its final showdown stages. And today we will conquer 2 Category 1s and 1 Category 2 climb with yet another mountain top finish. This will be a big test for Jan Ullrich today. The Spanish climbers are assured now to come out and fight before we go to the flatter stages. These next 2 days will play a crucial part for sure in this year's Tour of Spain. 166 kilometers as the riders go away from Guadalajara, heading to the top of the Alto de Abantos. And there it is, short and sharp at the end of a long day, 12 kilometers or 7 miles of climbing to the finishing line. Now we're getting down to the serious situation in the Tour of Spain. And an attack has gone early, one would expect to go early today, and it's up to the telecom team to try and control it here as these riders start to open up the gaps once again. This is Gianni Farazin off to the right, and on the attack with him is Jan Boven. We haven't seen him for a few days out front, have we, for Rabobank. And Euskaltel are also in the frame yet again. This is Angel Castrosana del Val. And Euskaltel anxious to make sure they're noticed in their home tour. They've never won a stage, by the way, in the Tour of Spain. Meanwhile, back in the field, here we have Jan Ullrich following the wheel of the King of the Mountains leader, looking for a hat-trick of victories in that competition. Jimenez. And there is Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano having a great tour. Also in the group here. Serrano, number 8. They're just riding steady tempo here at the moment, allowing the breakaway to have its head at least for the time being, because they know that the big showdown will come at the end of the race. The Kelme losing their battle with Benesto for the team race as well. They need a man away. Without Benesto up there today, and it could happen because there is a man in that breakaway. Ulrich just waiting for others to make the move now. Very good tempo, and it's the Benesto boys here who are trying to crack the race wide open. They need to limit that escape up front if they want to keep their hands on the team race, and they know it. And Ulrich can profit by this, and he knows that. Again, the weather here as we race across Spain, right in the interior, is not great. We're not far from the finish in Madrid now. We're running across the top of Madrid, heading across to the climb. We've still got one time trial to come, of course. Alex Zuller here, gritting his teeth and playing the perfect domestique for Jimenez. Jimenez coming back into his own now. He's built a nice lead in the King of the Mountains as we slowly grind our way to 1,800 meters. about 5,700 feet above sea level. And now Jimenez goes off and takes the mountain points. And the gap, a minute 39 on that little escape group. I'm not sure he even gets any points because there are too many riders in the lead. But he's put his authority on that competition, I think. The newspaper, just to keep the chest warm on the way down. Wise man, because there's plenty of cloud and it's quite chilly. 1 minute 50 is the official gap. And the attacks have been happening today from the 6 kilometre point when Lopez Uriarte from Benfica went clear, but he was brought back. And 6 riders got away with Boven in it, and Chan McRae from Mappe's up there too. Smetanine, who's a good sprinter from Vitalicio, we caught a glimpse of him earlier. But this is a fine piece of descending in bunch formation, isn't it? All these riders now who've made a little bit of ground are trying to hold it back. Some 40 or 50 riders getting clear of the main field, and the majority of the leads, in fact as far as I know, all of the leads, we've heard no calls off the back of the race of top men being dropped. Now if they keep this sort of rhythm up, they might well get back up to those leaders, because they're all well aware that the last climb of the day is a 12 kilometre steady slog. This is Jan Boven. And that is Melchior Mauri, former winner of this tour, but we have to go back a few years. Now gone over to Portugal to find a team named after the famous football team from Portugal, Benfica, and part of their setup as well. This is Jan Boven. And I think they know that they're steadily being pulled back. They're not taking any more turns than they have to here. They're just riding nice and steady. Little Chan McRae's having a pretty good tour. We haven't seen much of him in the pictures for the cameras, but he's still in 20th place overall. Garcia Cazas, another man who's riding pretty well. There's quality in this breakaway. If they can get to the bottom with a reasonable lead, then they might be able to scurry up the mountain and keep away from the chase. Zarabitia is the Once rider in this breakaway. And he must be tucked in there, be near the back riders, because I haven't seen an Once. There he is. 2:23. Time to take on a bit of food. Not a particularly long stage at 166 kilometres, but it is a hilly one, and tomorrow we have a series of first category climbs, 2 of them in fact, pretty steep climbs, the first one extremely long, and if we get over that then the advantage might well swing to Jan Ullrich, with the time trial still to come. Well, that's the top of the climb where the clock has started, so there's only one climb left now, and that's the Abantos itself. There's Frank Vandenbroucke going through. The pressure seems to be off the team race now. Benesto have done pretty well there, Ralph Aldag. And the yellow jersey, or the golden jersey, of Jan Ullrich seems to be brought back here. It looks as though he's been behind the race for some reason, and now his team are taking him back up and putting him back in position at the front. There's still a lot of action down there as we pass through this village, and I would think there's enough speed in that peloton to try and reel in that breakaway before the climb, but you never know. There's no reason yet for Ullrich to concern himself. He knows he'll be attacked by just about everybody around him, because they're all Spanish and strong on the mountains as soon as the climb begins, and the boys up front might get brought back or might not. And the steady tempo, it looks like they're beginning to pick off the breakaways here as they slip back into the pack. and it's Alex Zula setting the tempo for Banesto. It's been all Banesto in the main field all afternoon to try and tame that breakaway. Ulrich, quite rightly, watching and waiting. He's following very closely, as you can see there, and just behind Alex Zula. Zula never quite done enough to win the Tour de France. He's come close a couple of times, but Jan Ullrich, what a record he's got. A win in 2 seconds. And now it looks as though Alex is going to have to lead out Alex Zula. Alex is going to have to lead out Jan Ullrich on the climb here. Old rivals, new event. Now this is the climb itself as they start to pick off the men in the breakaway one by one. They're coming back to this group here now, and Alex has really set a tempo onto these slopes. They're 12 kilometers and clearly on the attack in favor of Jimenez, his team leader now. And Alex is such a marvellous bike rider. When it's his day, he can win the race. When it isn't, he will give all of his energy without any feeling of self-pity to help out the rest of his team. And as a result of the effort, he's going to break up this leading group. And it looks to me as though Jan Ullrich might just be in a little bit of trouble here. He's come right down from the pace of Zula and has slipped to the back and is slipping off the back. Now, this is the first time. Perhaps the wearer of the golden jersey this year is not so solid after all. We've seen it happen to all of the leaders this year. As an attack is going off the front here from Euskaltel. All of the riders from that breakaway, as far as I know, are now caught and dropped. I don't think there's anybody ahead, and this tempo by Zula is fantastic. It has destroyed Jan Ullrich, and we weren't expecting that. Ullrich is isolated from his team and is losing ground. Well, everybody's entitled to one bad day. That's what Olano said when he had his, but after that he packed it all in. And this is a full-on effort here from the Euskaltel boy. Well, it is. I was about to say it looks like Roberto Leseca. He's not a rider we see very much of. He's won one race in his career, and he's giving it a good go on this very narrow climb. Ullrich has recovered. The road has levelled that little bit to let him get back on just for a second at least. A chance for a few deep breaths. There's no doubt, though, that Ullrich is in trouble here. I wonder if the rest of the riders in that breakaway have realised that Ullrich is in trouble. And now the attacks are coming. This is Cuesta, who sprints away. And again, Ullrich is going to have to think of reacting here. Cuesta is no longer riding high on the classification like he was in the first week. And Ullrich once more under pressure as they lift the pace. Well, González Galdeano is still within seconds of that leader's yellow jersey, and there he is right at the head of this group. That's Jimenez. And the big guns are beginning to fire now. I think the message has gone around that Ullrich is struggling here. And being dropped off the back is Cuesta after that little spirited sprint. He's paid the price. Jimenez, a wonderful climber, is now free as the bird again. King of the mountains the past 2 years. Remember that still ahead, and only just ahead, is Robert Leseca. And we are in all sorts of problems with our cameras just now inside the trees here. Trees always kill our signals that go up to the helicopter. There's a real battle going on down there right now. And we've got Jimenez, Galdeano, and number 12 here is Beltran. He's riding alongside Ulrich just to keep an eye on him. But there's 4 riders there grovelling and 3 riders trying to make contact, I think. Beltran, Ulrich. And a Mappe rider just ahead of him there. I was wondering if it might have been Pavel Tonkov. As Jimenez again veritably sprinting up these steep climbs, as we're getting a little bit of a close clash with our motorcycles here. Some brave bike riding being done on the powered sort. 2 kilometres to the top, and this man might be laying down the foundations of his greatest ever victory. Well, he's only got one before anyway, since he turned pro in '94. He's 29 years of age now. Leseca. Ulrich is in dreadful trouble here and is praying for the end of this stage because he's losing pace second by second. This man is inspired, to say the least. He got clear at the start of the climb and is continuing up it. He's being chased by Jimenez. And Jimenez is very typical of a climber who power climbs. He sits in the saddle for seconds, gets out and kicks again, recovers in the saddle and kicks again. He's gone up onto the big chainring now. Oh, this rider's doing the ride of his life. He's staying on the small chainring, look. Cannot believe, I would think, that he's got to the last kilometre in the lead of this, and he's going to continue as long as he possibly can. Jimenez might have another say if he gets his way. He's coming up quickly. We're looking at about 20 seconds, I think. Very difficult to say. Big cheers then for the Euskaltel rider, because this would be a first for a small team, and it's always nice when a small team can get a nice result over the top division squads. Jimenez, and that is Vandenbroucke. Now, goodness knows where he came from. He must have been in those 3 that we saw from the helicopter, because he's come from absolutely nowhere and is in full cry at 1 kilometre. And Jimenez had no answer at all to that sprint. So Vandenbroucke has crept up through the cars and motorbikes, waited and then attacked him immediately so he couldn't take his wheel. Now, has he made it too much of an effort too soon? Because it looks as though Jimenez may have just recovered a little bit better. Here is Ulrich. He's now under the 1 kilometre sign. So Ulrich is definitely losing ground today, and Jimenez is going to be closing in. And I've got a feeling our cameras aren't coming clean here, because I think there are other riders in between Ulrich and Jimenez, because we haven't seen Galdiano either, or Roberto Heras, and he has to be up the road somewhere. There's no doubt now that Leseca is going to get a great win, the best win of his life. Second win of a career which started out in 1994. He's making sure nobody is coming by looking across the barriers there. This is a wonderful win for him and for his team. And he's having none of it. He's just going to keep his full pressure on right up to the line here as he twists and turns his way through to the top of the climb here of the Abantos. Still finding the effort to sprint. Nobody's going to get to him now. This is going to be a wonderful moment. Don't fall off, for goodness sake, as he comes round the corner and gets the victory. So, the 18th stage of the Vuelta, he will remember. Now, Frank Vandenbroucke with that inspired sprint is still clear. This man is coming good, and don't forget the points jersey up for grabs at the moment, and he gets good points here for second place. And Jimenez recovered slightly to get third over the line. Now I'm rather intrigued to see who does come up, and there they are. So Heras and Galdiano, no cameras on them, but are also clear of Ulrich and gaining time on him. This could be a switch of jerseys tonight as Heras crossed the line, followed by Galdiano. The sensation from the Vitalicio team. This is Tonkov coming through with Beltran on his wheel. The Once rider is Cuesta. Ulrich is there as well, but even in the dying seconds of the stage, they get a couple of seconds on Ulrich. Well, he's had a real rough ride today. He knows he's in a battle. He knows he hasn't won this race yet. Pipoli coming in. And that was Santiago, as the Kelme boys also finishing here now. That'll be Uria. But Jan Ullrich will be only too pleased to get, if he gets a gold jersey, and then to get off and have a rest, because today he struggled. His fitness not quite there. He looks very, very tired. And here's the man that caused the damage. What a brilliant ride it was by Alex Zülle. His teammate Jimenez didn't quite do it, but he did get time on Ullrich, and it was that man there on the right who destroyed Ullrich on the climb with some fine riding today. Just nipping in ahead of him is Massimo Codol from Lamprey, but Zülle was the star of Benesto. This man was the star of the day, though. Euskaltel getting a stage victory, another first for them, and a first for him too. Now, a calculation, a quick one as it is. They are saying that Ullrich will get the gold jersey again, but the gap is down to 31 seconds on González Galdeano. The fairy tale continues for the Vitalicio rider very much from day one. Now there's the latest situation. 30 seconds it is to Galdeano. Heras is third and up 2:16 now behind Ullrich. It's still a two-horse race really. Jimenez is up to fourth and still in touch with third place, and Tonkov in the frame there in fifth at 3 minutes 42. Further down the list here, the time goes out, and Rubira, Beltran, Pipoli, Pera and Blanco filling the top 10 overall. Well, he's found time to smile because they told him he's still the leader, but he still has a difficult day to come tomorrow before he feels safe. So 3 days to go, one in the mountains, one a time trial, one a pleasant ride into Madrid. Let's hope so. We're now going on to Avia, and we climb the Porto Bernardo and the Serenilos, two Category 1 climbs, which will take the riders up to 1,570 metres. And this seems to be the day that all of the strong men are trying to push home their advantage here now, because the bunch has already thinned out dramatically over these early kilometres, and we stay in the mountains virtually all day. Nasty little finish, by the way, at Avia, because it's on cobbles. It's around the outside of the beautiful castle there. Frank Vandenbroucke going through, Tonkov, Ullrich, names we've become rather familiar with now over these last 3 weeks. And now, is this man stuttering, or is he just concentrating? The riders themselves are no doubt asking the same question. And Pavel Tonkov just in front of him. And this has been a superb ride. That is Santiago Blanco. There is Jimenez. And wearing the grey jersey, and there he is now, is Igor Gonzalez, in with a chance of winning the points competition now. He's been so consistent in this race. He leads that. I know that Marcel Wust was incredibly disappointed he had to withdraw from the race, but he just got more tired as the days went by. And look at the tempo here being set by Frank Vandenbroucke. He is ripping this breakaway apart. He's now up to 13th overall, although 21 minutes behind, and he is not waiting for anybody. He has just ripped off the front of this race, and that says a lot for this man. His form has come ever so slowly. He came into the race not on good form, but he certainly heard a few riders there. That was Tonkov, and he's veritably sprinting up this climb now. So Frank Vandenbroucke, the Cofidis man, he's won stage 16. He's now out to look and see if he can win stage 19. 184 kilometres by the time he gets to the finish. Tomorrow is time trial day, so the hill they go up to the finish today. They'll be climbing again tomorrow in the time trial. You can hear the crowd shouting for their favourites here. The yellow jersey of Jan Ullrich trying to control the men that matter most to him, like Jimenez, Galdeano, Tonkov, Heras. They are the riders, the only riders he need worry about now. No matter how good Frank Vandenbroucke is, he's not going to get 21 minutes back. But he is good. You've got to give him that. He's riding superbly now, this man from Belgium. He's got himself into this superb rhythm as he now looks for another stage win. He's won 50 races since he turned professional in 1994. And the gap is there. And there's still the finishing climb to come, and he's torn this breakaway apart here. That really is fine riding by Vandenbroucke. This is Arabica here, who's sitting on the back wheel of Pavel Tonkov. And Big Frankie is now into his descending mode, and he obviously has gone over the top with no intention of waiting for anybody. Chance to get dizzy with him now as we go down, as he clips off the nose of the corners. Whoa, and he's descending here now, probably in speeds of 80 to 90 kilometers an hour, 55 to 60 miles an hour. He's clearly got the strength. There's the composition of the group behind, in fact. Ulrich, Jimenez, Jerez, Galdiano, Tonkov, Zarabitia and Pipoli. All good riders. And the majority of them, of course, all looking for Ulrich to make a mistake. Vultures at the bait. There's Jerez in second position. Galdiano looks a little bit like Marcellus, doesn't he, when he's riding along? Just the wrong coloured shorts. And now we're onto the Cobble Climb here, and still flown away from the coupe is Frank Vandenbroucke. Now it's the real grovel to the summit here for the big boys to try and sort it all out. This is Zarabitia, who's gone clear, and again will not cause a reaction. In fact, Zarabitia must have been in front, because Vandenbroucke has been chasing him. Our cameras weren't with him, but he's almost on him now at the top of the climb, approaching. So Mikel Zarabitia was up in the lead there, and Vandenbroucke has jumped on him and got him, and continuing the sprint to the summit here. This is our time trial finish tomorrow, but right now Vandenbroucke, look at that! This is look at the determination on Vandenbroucke's face. He is ripped away from him. Stage 19 is in the bag here at Avida. As Frank Vandenbroucke responds to the crowd, he looks over and kicks again. Now Zarabitia will have none of that. As we go back to the little group here, led by Jimenez, Jerez, and sitting at the back there, Jan Ulrich. But Ulrich not conceding any time, and that's all that matters to him. He won't worry if he loses a minute or so to this man, and this man doesn't really worry about gaining time anyway. As he now is thinking of just saluting the crowds. Arabitia goes under the kilometre to go flag, looks good for second. Must have thought a tornado hit town when Frank Vandenbroucke came by him. This crowd set now to be entertained for the next 24 hours by this great race, and tomorrow will be a big day for all concerned with the leaderboard. But right now it's win number 2 and win number 51 of his career for Frank Vandenbroucke. Keeps on looking around to make sure, but surely he cannot believe that anybody would have recovered from that to come back up to him. He is just scorching across the town. This is going to be win number 2, and a man who has suddenly, in this last week of the Tour, has made himself a candidate for the points competition. He's had a fabulous last week. If he'd have ridden this well early on, he would have been a candidate for the win. He gets the victory. Frank Vandenbroucke, win number 2 of the week for him. Zarabitia has done well to recover from the shock and hang on there for second place. He's going to be a little over 10 seconds behind. Comes the sprint for third now. And it looks like Jerez is going to take out the small bonus seconds as he's challenged on the right by Tonkov, then Jimenez, Ulrich and Galdiano in that order, and Pipoli trailing in just off the back. He'll be 8th. So all of the men that matter were in that chase group in this year's Vuelta, as Frank again takes a prize for the winner in this week of the Tour of Spain. Overall, well, there won't be too much change at all, thankfully, for Ulrich, because at the end of the day, he was right there. There's the man who shocked everybody with a superb turn of speed and an inspiration as he chased down the lone leader and then wiped him out. Overall, Ulrich has now been riding for 84 hours and still his gap is just 31 seconds over González Galdeano. But advantage now must go back to Jan Ullrich. We face up to the race's last time trial. 46 kilometres, the final race of truth, and then the ride down into Madrid. Ullrich has had an unpleasant week on a number of occasions, but it's back to Avia now. And the same finish as the one just conquered by Frank Vandenbroucke, as the riders now start out as always in the reverse order of the overall classification. This looks like Alex Zülle. A few deep breaths for the man who is a pretty cool time trial rider himself, and makes a start to a round of applause from the crowd. Many of them, of course, seeing Benesto will think he's Spanish probably, but he's Swiss, of course.
5, 4, 3.
And this is Frank Vandenbroucke. This past week has become something of a force, but it's all come too late to win the race, but he could still break into the top 10. Although time trialing perhaps not his strongest forte. Out on the course, Alex Zülle. Looks as though he's settled in nicely. The last rider to go, the maillot jaune, the yellow jersey of the Tour of Spain, Jan Ullrich. And he's used time trials in the past to seal victories in the Tour de France, or a victory in the Tour de France. Now, can he seal his first ever victory in the Tour of Spain and become the third German rider to win this race? Over the years, 22 times the Spanish have won the Tour of Spain. The foreigners very rarely getting a look in. The Swiss have had 5 wins, but they've shared it with 2 riders, Alex Zülle and Tony Rominger. Rominger now a commentator on television here. Now, this is González Galdeano, still in that points jersey, but he must be worried about the great riding by Vandenbroucke because he's closing in. And he needs a good performance now. He's got to try and get a time 31 seconds quicker than Jan Ullrich. But here's the man going to set the marker for them all, because Alex Zülle has done a flyer. And Zülle coming up towards the end of his 46-kilometre test. There is the time. It's going to be the best time. And that is the time to beat on the line. It's the clock, in fact, hasn't stopped at about 1:07:57, I think it was. Something like that anyway, but he is the leader on the board. 1:07:47, that is the leader's time, as now we go to the streamlined cyclist here of Jan Ullrich in his element now. And if the time checks are to be believed, he is absolutely scorching along the road here and seems to be beating just about everybody by a big, big time. The camera's gone a little bit off here, so it's got a bit of water in it or something from previous stages, but bear with us. But Jan Ullrich here is riding the time trial of his life, I think. He's starting to pick them all off, including the man who was 30 seconds behind him. Well, forget that now, because he's now 2 minutes and 30 seconds behind him as Ullrich catches up with González Galdeano. Is he going to spare him a look, or is he just going to ride straight by him? The gap there now. This is a superb ride by him. That is a 3-minute start gap there, bridged, so he's 3.5 minutes in the overall classification now. Passing the regulation distance on the other side of the road, and it looks as though González Galdeano is not going to try and take his slipstream, or is he? There'll be plenty of commissaires around him right now to stop that, I would think, as we go up to the finishing line. The arrival of Vandenbroucke. Zülle is in, remember, with the best time. Now, can Frank Vandenbroucke, and I can't believe it, do a better time? No, he's just outside, in fact, but this is a superb ride. He's going to slot in here for second place at the moment. So Vandenbroucke has drawn his guns in this final week, and he will get more points for that grey jersey here. That is an outstanding time by Frank Vandenbroucke. He is going to be over the moon when he realises what that time is worth. Now the arrival, not the last man on the course now, but the second to last man on the course. You are looking at the winner of the 1999 Tour of Spain here, because Jan Ullrich has totally annihilated his Spanish fly behind him, caught and dropped him. He is winning this time trial by minutes now, according to the interim checks. Zuller is still the best, but Zuller will also have to bow. Here is the arrival of Roberto Heras, and he also is losing time as he sprints the line. Let's see what he gets. There's the time of Heras, fourth at the moment. Mauri is ahead of him, Cuesta is behind him. Is he going to finish in fourth place? I don't think so. I think he'll fall behind Cuesta as well here. As Heras comes up to the line, just gets in. No, he's gone by. He will be there in fifth place. And my goodness me, Ullrich isn't far behind Heras either here. This has been a destructive trail set by the German rider as he comes in with a marvellous time. The time of Zuller 1:07, the time of Ullrich 1:4:57. He has eaten them alive today, and he's just told them, I have won the Tour of Spain. There is the result of the time trial, 2 minutes 50 over Zuller, and more importantly, none of his main rivals are in the top five. Now he can relax with 1 day to go and stretch high those flowers and the trophy, and then bow down to the two women alongside. The race arrives in Madrid for a circuit race of 163 kilometres, finishing, of course, in the capital of Spain. And they're going to witness now for sure a German winner for only the third time in the history of this event, because Jan Ullrich now overall has eclipsed the general classification. 4 minutes 15 seconds ahead of Galdiano, 5 minutes 57 seconds ahead of Roberto Heras, and 7:53 ahead of Pavel Tonkov, who is up into fourth place. Those are big time gaps in anybody's language. And the racing is done, and time, as always, on these traditional last stages to enjoy the occasion a little bit, because you're not going to get any more time back now. And the privileged position of these two youngsters in the Once team car, the hot seat for the day, with Manolo Saez to the left of our picture, who had his moments in this race with Olano, but it all faded away in the end. And it looks as though somebody has tried to slip off, as they often do. Max van Heeswijk did it a couple of years ago, got away in the last kilometre and stole the honours on the last day. But this is a battle of the sprinters now, and it looks as though coming out from the left of the picture there's Jeroen Blijlevens. I'd almost forgotten he was in the race as he comes forward to the line, but he's going to hit the line first and gets it. Well, can you believe that? Jeroen Blijlevens has taken the victory. Last time we saw him, he was sitting in the street in the city of Murcia complaining about bad riding from a lotto rider. That was 3 weeks ago. Now he has won the final stage of this year's Tour of Spain. Well, the cameras didn't pick up the salute, I'm sure, that came from Jan Ullrich. Maybe we'll catch it in the slow motion. But Jeroen Blijlevens there coming clear of US Postal's Julian Dean, who's got second. A good sprint finish for him, and Paolo Bettini in third place. But Blijlevens gave it his best shot, and it worked out. Dean off to the middle right of our picture here. A little bit of a ducking and diving as well. Jan Ullrich wisely staying out of this one. Not exactly the straightest of sprints, was it? And Glenn Magnussen for US Postal also in the frame there in fourth. And there's not for the nervous on the right side of the sprints there, but Blijlevens keeping well out of it as they come up to the line. Good to see the remnants of the US postal team still enjoying a good finish on the last day of the Vuelta de España. But there's only one winner overall, and it is Jan Ullrich, and what a magnificent ride this has been for the man whose season seemed blighted with injury after the Tour of Germany. Jeroen Blijlevens gets a stage victory at last, so he won't go home empty-handed. And a good result for the TVM Farm Fleet squad. Man on the left there, slightly overweight, but nonetheless, he's passed the trophy to Frank Vandenbroucke as the winner of the points competition. He deserves it. He finished 13th today, but he has won the trophy by just 6 points from Robbie Hunter, and Galdiano is down to third on the last day with 122 points, so he's 7 points back. The king of the mountains for the third year in succession is the Banesto rider, and this is Jimenez El Chava. And he was a good climber, wasn't he? He sprinted at some of the steepest climbs out there on the course this year. And he's also part of the winning team, and that may be the next prize we'll see. And yes, it is indeed. Well, Banesto haven't won this team since 1994. Now they are back as the champions. But this race belongs to one Jan Ullrich now, who came here saying he would finish in the top 10 if he could, and that's all. After he gave a display over the last half of this tour, he clearly has run out a very, very definitive winner of this tour by a massive margin of 4 minutes and 15 seconds over the surprise González Galdiano, who won the opening prologue, and Roberto Heras of Kelme, who finishes third on the right there, 5 minutes and 57 seconds behind. 3 very brave rides indeed, and what a good battle this year's Vuelta España has been. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have enjoyed commentating it for you. Goodbye for now.